and the stay-home order. But we wanted tonight to help our community move forward, the projects to move forward. So we've decided to do a special council meeting that is all about public hearings to get us caught up. Really appreciate the work of Rodney Ashby, Director of Planning and Zoning, and the Planning and Zoning team to put this together in this live stream environment. We wanted to make sure that we gave opportunity for all citizens to have opportunity to give input. So as we get started, we typically open in prayer. And so I'm just going to pray quickly, and then we will say the pledge, and then we'll go to roll call. So Lord, I thank you for today. I thank you for a new day. I thank you for this amazing community of Nampa, Idaho, the people of our community, the state that we get to live in, and this great nation that we get to have the privilege of living in at this season in history. We ask God for your guidance and your wisdom and your insight in the decisions that are made by the council members tonight. And we thank you, Father, that you are faithful to our community. And we commit this evening into your hands in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's do the pledge. So if you can see my screen, there's a flag back here. There we go. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I believe Deborah Rosen is on. Deborah, would you like to do roll call?
Rodriguez?
Here.
Bruner?
Here.
Lucci?
Here.
Levi? Levi? Haverfield?
Here.
Bauer?
Here.
Thank you. So I am not aware of any proposed amendments to the agenda. Council or Rodney, is anyone aware of any amendments to our agenda this evening? Okay, so seeing none, I believe we'll just move right into public hearing number 1. And my understanding is Sandy is on, but she's having trouble with audio. And she's working with IT to get it corrected. So Sandy Levi is on. She's able to listen. She's just not able to talk. So public hearing number 1 this evening is a variance of section 1010-6D, which is a minimum property structure and parking in a front yard, a setback for an RD zoning district requiring a 20-foot yard setback at 723 13th Avenue, located at, which is part of the Waterhouse Addition subdivision. This is for construction of an accessible pedestrian ramp to the Church of the Living God for Mr. Radchuk. So we typically begin with the applicant. Is the applicant present this evening and able to share with us what your plan is? And so this would be Mr. Radchuk, I believe. And Rodney, I think I'm going to defer to you if I'm not hearing from him to help us here.
So Christy is the staff member assigned here. Christy, do you know the situation with Mr. Radchuk?
I thought I saw him online, so let's see. Yeah, he's online and it looks like his microphone is on.
Is he muted by any chance?
He's not.
He's not muted.
This is Ben Radchuk. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to, I thought I had this figured out, but I guess not.
Thank you for your willingness to try. It can be challenging. So,
Yeah, so for
Go ahead.
the ramp, did you want me just to talk about that real quick?
yes, if you could.
Okay, so the church property at the 723 13th Avenue South, our church community bought that property about a year ago, and we did quite a bit of remodeling, and there used to be an old accessible ramp on the south side of the building, and when I submitted my application, I included a historical photo that showed that. But somewhere along the line, the previous owners, they did a remodel, and then they had a accessible entrance on the north side. But when we did the remodel, we changed the layout of the church so that it was facing kind of more the long direction, if you want to call it that. And so the main entrance is now on the south side where it used to be, and where like I said, there used to be a ramp there, but then they took it out, and now there's just stairs. So I also submitted some drawings where we want to basically put that ramp back in there, and that's within the setbacks.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Redchuck?
Mayor, this is
Yes.
Randy. Just for clarification purposes, you're wanting to put the ramp back along the east side of the building, is that correct?
The building is kind of oriented, not really northwest, southeast, but yeah, it's kind of the east side. If you look at the plan view, kind of where that grassy area is.
I'm looking
the
at the
southeast.
photograph on page 6 of your application, so it would be on that face to the right, correct? To
Yes.
the right of the cross?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for our applicant this evening? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Radchuk, if you can just stay paused, and you can go ahead and mute your microphone for a few minutes. What we will do is have a staff report, and then we will come back to you at the close of the public hearing to give any final comments and be available to answer questions. So staff report. So I understand this is Christie's?
Yes, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, I think so. I'm sorry. I may be on mine. Let's go back. Yes.
Okay, so you see an action item there with the aerial?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The action requested from you tonight is the granting of a variance of Nampa City Code Section 1010-6D, which requires that a 20-foot minimum front yard setback for a structure in the RD zone. The request is in regards to the placement of an ADA ramp and the expansion of the front staircase at the Church of the Living God at 723 13th Avenue South. The property is located in an RD zone. Church facilities are an allowed use in this zone and need to meet commercial building codes like any other service-oriented business would have to. This church has existed at this location for a good number of years and has had a few facelifts in that meantime. It sits on 0.321 acres. The utilities already serve the property, and the parcel takes access from both 13th Avenue South and 8th Street South, with parking available both on and off the site. So the purpose of this request is to provide accessibility to the front entrance of the church. Currently, the stairs are located within that 20-foot setback, and the church is asking to be able to expand the stairs to provide an adequate landing area and to provide a handicapped accessible ramp. Historically, this is the picture that he referenced earlier that he provided to us in our packet. Historically, the church provided stairs and a ramp. I'm not quite sure when those were removed, but as you can see here, it did extend out into that front setback. As you know, a variance may be granted to an applicant that shows undue hardship based on special site characteristics relating to the site, shape, or dimension of the site. A variance is not intended to allow something that allows others, or something that others do not have a permitted right to do. The purpose is to provide fair treatment to all. So in this case, we're entertaining this request for encroachment into a front yard setback, and we'll determine if the setback required, 1, results in a practical difficulty, 2, if there are extraordinary site circumstances that cause the encroachment to be necessary, 3, if the literal interpretation of the code would deprive the applicant of the ability to create a safe access to the building, 4, if by granting this variance we are not granting a special privilege necessarily, and 5, if this encroachment will be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or if it's materially injurious to the properties in this vicinity. The Nampa City Code that applies this regulation in this case, of course, is 10.10.6D, which is the property area width and yard requirements for the RD zoning district. In this case, the front yard setback should be 20 feet. But because of site characteristics, that may not be appropriate in this case. So as stated by code, in an RD zone, in order to build, remodel, or add on to a structure, the proposed addition shall meet the 20-foot setback requirement. Upon research, we find that this property already has stairs that encroach into that setback. ADA standards require suitable access to the building. This new ramp would provide adequate access to the front entrance of the church. At build out, this addition will not encroach into the city's right-of-way, only into the front yard setback contained within the property lines. Historically, this church had a ramp and stairs located so that the ramp extended from the front entrance east to connect to the sidewalk along 13th Avenue South. That encroached into the entire 20-foot front yard setback. The proposed ramp will extend north from the entrance, parallel to the building and terminating at the edge of pavement for the parking lot to the north. The proposed location encroaches into the setback a lesser distance than the original ramp did, but to provide an adequate landing at the stairs, the stairs will need to be extended beyond their current location into the front yard setback. We received correspondence from the engineering department, Idaho Transportation, and the Nampa Building Department. There were no comments other than that the building department, of course, will require a building permit for the construction of the ramp and the stairs. So should the council choose to approve the request for variance, staff recommends that it be approved with conditions as listed in your staff report and any other conditions that you see fit to impose. I will stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
this is Randy. Christy, will they be restriping the parking there on the north side of the building or northwest side of the building at the end of this ramp for handicap parking? Is that a part of their proposal?
It's not something that we looked at with this particular application. It might be something that they would look at with the building permit. You can certainly place that condition on this.
It's only reasonable that that would be another reason for the ramp to run along the north side or the east side of the building to allow access to a handicap parking stall that would be in that off-street parking area to the north of the building. So that's the reason I asked. I don't see anything
Certainly.
there in the photographs, but it's reasonable to me. And then the only other thing is there would still be vegetation or landscape between the edge of this ramp and the 13th Street side. Then, so it's not like they're encroaching all the way in to the landscape area. There'll still be some landscape, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from council members? Okay, Christy, you can stand by. If there are no other questions, we will move forward. This is a public hearing, and this is an opportunity for anyone that would like to support or oppose the public hearing. We do not have anyone signed up that's in favor of or opposing this particular project. So at this time, I think I'd like to see if there are any further comments that our applicant would like to make, or if the council has any questions for the applicant before we close public hearing. So, Mr. Radchuk, would you like to unmute, and you're welcome to let us know if you have any further comments that you would like to make this evening? And you'll have to unmute your...
Can you hear me okay now?
We can, thank you.
No, I think everything was explained pretty well. There will be landscaping between the ramp and the existing sidewalk, and it only makes sense to stripe a accessible parking stall at the end of the ramp. So that's definitely a plan. It's not a part of the application.
Thank you. Council, do you have any further questions for Mr. Radchuk? Do you have any questions for staff? And I'm pausing.
I'd make a motion to close the public hearing then.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Mayor
I'll
Kling, I
make a
think,
motion to approve the variance
okay.
for Church of the Living God at 723 13th Avenue South.
Thank you. And Randy just made that.
Oh,
So-
sorry.
That's
Made
okay.
Yeah, I just need a clarification. There are recommended conditions of approval and the addition of the handicap parking space at the end of the ramp on the north side of the building. I would like to see those added to your motion.
So done.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Jacob, did you second that?
Yes.
Okay. And you're okay with those conditions?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. That kind of shifted a little bit. But okay, so we have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Letty,
Yes.
Levi, Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. So for Mr. Radchuk, I don't know if he's still on, but you are approved, and Christy can follow up with you. And Christy, thank you. So we'll move on to our second public hearing of the evening. This is item 1-2 on the agenda. This is the annexation and zoning to RS4 single-family residential at 4,000 square feet at 922 and 946 West Maryland Avenue. This is a 1.66 acre parcel. This is in a subdivision plat preliminary approval for Anchor Point subdivision. 9 single-family residential lots on 1.66 acres or 5.42 dwelling units per gross acre for Sawyer Eckhart Anchor Homes LLC. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval for this. And is our applicant with us this evening? And I would like to ask, I don't have a note of which staff is reporting on these. Who is the staff report on this particular one?
It's Christy again.
It is Christy again. Okay. And I might just ask, since Rodney's here, if someone can give me a list of who the staff member is for each one of those, that would help me as I go through the list this evening. Okay. So is the applicant present this evening?
Yes,
And
can you hear me?
We can. So I can barely hear you, but, and so could you give your name and address? I think I forgot on the last one, but if you could give your name and address.
Sure. My name is Kurt Smith. I live at 2587 Southside Boulevard, Melba, Idaho.
Thank you, Kurt. Go ahead and tell us a little bit, or tell us about the application and what you're wanting to do.
What we're doing is we're trying to put 9 residential lots on a 1.66 acre parcel. We've dealt with the staff and engineering. We have reviewed the staff report and all the conditions listed there, and we don't have any issues with any of those conditions. We're just trying to get, it's a small infill project. We're just trying to get this approved so that we can move forward with the project. That's it.
Okay. So, council members, do you have any questions for our applicant before we move to the staff report? Okay. So, Mr. Smith, if you can just feel free to remute, hang with us, and I'm sure we'll come back to you and give you an opportunity after we go through the public hearing process to give any final comments based on what we discussed.
Okay.
Thank you. Christy?
Okay, can you see my screen again?
Not yet.
You can't see it?
Nope.
Let's see what happened here. Okay, hopefully this will do it. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is the approval of annexation and zoning to RS4 of the property located at 946 West Maryland Avenue. The property is currently outside the city limits in Canyon County. It is adjacent to and surrounded by properties that are adjacent to Nampa city limits, causing it to be enclaved. It is bordered on the north, south, and east sides by Canyon County residential properties, and on the west side by RS7 city-zoned property that is known as the Sands Point subdivision. This property is eligible for annexation since it is adjacent to the Nampa city limits, and the proposed zoning and development plan conforms to the guidelines set forth in the comprehensive plan. This project was discussed and applied for prior to the adoption of the 2040 comprehensive plan, so I've stated both densities in this for your reference. The comprehensive future land use designation is medium density residential, which calls for development of 2.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. Previously in our comp plan, it stated 4 to 9 units per acre. Either way, this project proposes 5.29 dwelling units per acre, so it does fall within either range. A number of housing types are encouraged in this designation. Detached residences are allowed and are the housing type that's being proposed with this development. The comprehensive plan defines infill as development on vacant, underutilized, or partially used land. Infill areas have been identified as enclaves and undeveloped lands where existing city services are available. Infill is encouraged in order to take advantage of existing infrastructure, and this property meets all of those definitions. Correspondence was received from the Nampa Parks Department, the City Forester, the Building Department, and the Engineering Division. Some of these items include requirements for 10-foot sidewalks along Midland, moving or replacing trees to accommodate the power lines on Maryland, and standard building and frontage improvements from the Building and Engineering Departments. The conditions of approval are listed in your staff report and include the same items that were previously stated in the analysis and the correspondence. So in summary, this property is eligible to request annexation and zoning to RS4 because it is enclaved and surrounded by single-family properties. All city utilities are immediately available to the site.
Christy, are you still there? Christy, are you still there? Okay, Rodney, I don't know. I think we lost Christy.
I'm going to try to call her right now.
For right now. Given the analysis noted, the annexation and zoning to RS4 is certainly an entertainable request, and staff supports approval of this annexation and zoning with all conditions as listed in your staff report. I will stand for any questions.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for staff? Okay, and I'm pausing just to make sure. Okay, so I am hearing no questions. So this is a public hearing, and so we'll move into the public hearing phase. That said, we do not have anyone signed up to testify on behalf of or in opposition to this particular project. So at this time, I would like to give the opportunity to Mr. Smith to share any closing comments if he has any further comments after hearing the staff report.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I really don't have any other comments. I just feel that this is a good infill project. We're meeting all the city requirements. We are eligible. One of the reasons why we are doing an RS4 zoning district is because we can't quite meet the requirements on the 3 lots that are adjacent to Midland because of the right-of-way taking. And so we thought we could get away with an RS4, and staff went along with our request. We understand there's neighbors around us. There were some questions in the planning and zoning meeting. We are resolving them and dealing with the neighbors. One of those was with irrigation. Of course, we're required to pass through irrigation through our property so that the land to the north is served as it has been. And I think that was about it, any of the concerns that were brought up. And so we understand our requirements. Like, as I said earlier, we've reviewed the staff report. We don't have any issue with what is said, and so we would be glad to move forward as directed if you guys approve us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we close public hearing, Council, do you have any questions for our applicant, for Mr. Smith?
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
the applicant has reviewed the recommended conditions of approval, and he does not have any issue with any of those. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for the applicant or for staff? That being said, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Darrell, so moved.
I'll second then.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any further council discussion? I would stand for a motion.
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to allow the annexation and zoning assignment of this property to RS4 as presented to us this evening with the recommended conditions of approval. And if it's okay, I'll just go ahead and also make a motion to allow the preliminary plat to move forward as well.
Yes.
Second. Darrell for second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Okay. And Sandy, it's wonderful to be able to hear you. And I know you've been on that we just couldn't hear you. So I'm glad that you're here, that we can actually hear you vote. So we're ready
Mayor?
to move to, yes.
Before you get started on the next thing, that's all for me. So I'm going to say goodnight and you all stay well. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. We appreciate you being here this evening. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. So the next couple of items, I think Doug Critchfield is the one that will be handling the next two. And we're ready for item 1.3 on the agenda. This is annexation and zoning to RS 22. This is single family residential, 22,000 square feet on the west side of North Kings Road, adjacent and north of 39 North Kings Road at 0 North Kings Road. This is a 2.43 acre parcel. And this is also a parcel split for 2 dwellings for Jay Walker representing Miguel Ballesteros. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval. And who is with us as the applicant this evening? Is it Jay Walker?
I am here.
Great, thank you, Jay. Could you go ahead and just say your name and your address, and then feel free to share with us about the project?
Yes. Jay Walker with Altair Consulting. Our office is located at 849 East State Street, Eagle, Idaho 83616. Now, if you want to share my screen, I can do a quick little presentation if that is agreeable to you.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, if that works for everybody. I don't want to take very much time. I think that this is a fairly simple project and Doug Critchfield and previous staff have done a great job, and we've had communication, and I'm sure Mr. Critchfield will bring everybody up to date and provide a good staff summary of the little project here. So are you able to see that?
Yes, it is. Perfect.
Okay, this is, appreciate being here. Good evening, everybody, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your accommodations in these interesting circumstances. I do represent the Ballesteros family, and they're hopefully on here. I haven't heard that they're not. And we're seeking annexation and zoning for 2 single-family residential lots on the west side of North Kings Road, adjacent and north of 39 North Kings Road and 0 North Kings Road. The applications are for parcel number R142855556D, consisting of approximately 2.433 acres located at that address. The property is currently zoned R1 in Canyon County as shown below. The applicant's purpose is a parcel split for the construction of 2 new single-family dwellings. The parcel is located in the Nampa City's impact area, and the subdivision is consistent with the city's comp plan, future land use map, and ordinances in promoting low-density residential estate lots. Not only does the application meet approved zoning and land use requirements, but is consistent with surrounding parcels and agreeable to the neighbors. Here's a few pictures showing views of the property. It would be a nice little annex incorporation to the city and clean up a lot. And this is for the Ballesteros family. They are excited to develop this for their own purposes and their own family. On the north, rural residential enclave the county R1 single family residential. To the south, there's single family residential as well in county R1 zoning. To the east, there's agriculture and some unincorporated property. And then elementary school city is to the west. So I will, with that, and showing these others, stand for any question or allow Mr. Critchfield to provide a summary of our recent conversations about the zoning assignment with this annexation and desired split.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. We appreciate your report. And so we'll go, Council, do you have any questions? for the applicant? No? Okay, so we'll come back. As you know, Jay will come back to you after the public hearing. And Doug, thank you for providing a staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to bring this up here on the screen. There we go. And thank you, Jay, for your presentation. So I don't repeat things. This is the information that has been presented now a couple of times. This eventually will result in a parcel split for 2 new single-family dwellings. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend this project. As was mentioned, the size of the parcel, 2.43 acres. This is surrounding land use is important in this area. It's rural residential largely. There is some agricultural and some R1, county R1, single family residential. Endeavor Elementary School is to the west, which is zoned RS22, which is a low density zone. And the comprehensive plan, under the 2035 and 2040 comprehensive plan, this is showing as medium density residential. And under the 2035 plan, this density would have been under the minimum density required for this area. However, given the adjacent land uses, if this area were to develop into the future with the medium density designation, we would request a rezone of the property in order to facilitate that. It is a medium density residential and public and light industrial to the west, light industrial to the east and public to the west. Again, here's the location of the property. You can see RS22 to the west, an RA, which is a lower density zoning to the south, and then county properties surrounding. There are no city water, sewer, or irrigation facilities available to the property, and access is from North Kings Road. Here's a proposed lot division that again will occur if this annexation were to go through. And there's a copy of this in your staff report. The aerial view of the area, you can see that again is largely either underutilized agricultural land or low density housing. Here's a street view to the property from Kings Road. In some of the correspondence that we've received from engineering, building code compliance, IDT, District 3, the Nampa School District, Nampa Highway District 1, and Nampa Meridian Irrigation Districts, there were generally no issues or objections to the project. The building department, of course, would like, this will have to go under a building permit, anything that occurs in terms of building and building regulations under Title IV. And the school district would like to see sidewalks on King Road. And those were the primary conditions that apply under the correspondence. In our findings, that the parcel is enclaves as part of a larger 40-acre enclave. The area can be reasonably assumed to be available for the orderly development of the city within city limits. The proposed zoning conforms with the city's comprehensive plan, future land use map in terms of the 2035 land use map. And at the time of recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission, this was the map that was being used. And it's reasonably compatible with existing and proposed land uses in the area. And so the finding is that the owner requests annexation and zoning to RS22 for a parcel split. And the conditions of approval are in your packet. These were recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission to the City Council. One item of note is the last one, which does not have necessarily a condition, but just noting that this is within the 500-year floodplain. And it is worth noting in terms of the future development of this site. With the requested action, the annexation and zoning to RS22. And with that, I'll turn it back to the council for any questions.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
Doug, this is Councilman Rodriguez. So I just want to ask a question that I know this area is starting to grow and we're getting light industrial and residential. And with this proposal, when do you anticipate or propose that Kings and Victory at that intersection is going to be worked on? I'm just curious to try to help this community grow like that. To traffic.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council Member Rodriguez. Daniel Badger, if you're in, could you enlighten us on that information?
Yes, Council Commissioner Rodriguez, or Councilman Rodriguez, that intersection is currently under design. We anticipate, I believe it's construction next year or the year following. So it is currently under design though, and we're working towards that project being constructed.
Now, a follow-up, Mayor, if I could. Now, what brings the next question, is this going to be an intersection with traffic light or is this going to be a roundabout?
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, currently the proposal is for a roundabout at that location.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Doug, this is Darrell, and I hopefully I have the right public hearing here. Was there some question by neighbors about well usage, or am I on another one?
To my knowledge, we have not received any correspondence about well usage.
Okay. All right. It may have been the last one. I put number 3 down, but maybe it was the last one. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yep.
Are there any further questions of Doug from the council? Okay, hearing none. Doug, thank you very much. This is a public hearing, and again, we do not have anyone signed up to testify in favor of or in opposition to this particular project. With that said, I would like to provide the applicant an opportunity to come back with any further comments or final comments before we close the public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jay Walker, Altera Consulting at 849 East State Street, Eagle Idaho 83616. I just wanted to thank staff and council and P&Z commissioners on their great work and review of this. I think the applicants, the owners are excited, and we as applicants are excited. We agree to the recommendations of the approval. Those points were clearly expressed to the owners, and we're excited about this possibility of annexation and incorporating into the city and providing this improvement of the enclave property, farm ag property there. I'll stand for any questions if there are any.
Council, do you have any further questions for the applicant or for staff on this particular project? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, Mr. Walker. We appreciate the testimony. I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
So moved, Mayor.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there council discussion or a motion?
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to allow the annexation and zoning to RS 22 as prepared for us with the recommended conditions approval by staff.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Bruner,
Yes.
Lachi,
Yes.
Levi, Levi, Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. So the next set of public hearings are scheduled to begin at 6, and it's about 10 till 6. And so my question for Rodney is our next applicant available to go ahead and begin, or do we need to take a 10-minute pause?
Doug, I'd look to you. Do you know if your applicant is there?
So the applicant's name is, representing for William Boucher is Cheryl Heath. Is Cheryl Heath on?
And if you're on just a phone, you're going to need to hit *6 to connect or to unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Cheryl Heath.
Great.
Hi, Cheryl. Thank you for joining us. We're running a few minutes early, which is a nice problem. That said, if you're ready, we'd like to go ahead and move forward. And so this is item number 14 on the agenda, annexation and zoning to light industrial. It's adjacent and east of 3502 East Victory Road on the north side of East Victory Road at 0 North Pickard Lane. This is for a split for future light industrial use and for William Boucher. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval. And so our applicant is here. If you could go ahead and again state your name and your address.
Yes, good evening. My name is Cheryl Heath and my address is 676 North Keegan Way, Meridian 83642.
Thank you, Cheryl. And you're representing the applicant?
Yes, thank you for your time tonight. I really have enjoyed technology tonight. The applicant, William Boucher, asked me to speak on his behalf. Mr. Boucher is listening, so if there are questions for him later, he definitely can answer those for you.
Thank you. Well, feel free to proceed and share with us about the property.
Okay, so I do have just a really small PowerPoint. So when I say slide, if you could be so kind as to move the slide for me. Again, my name is Cheryl Heath, and Bill asked me to present because my husband and I currently lease a portion of the subject property where we operate a small local business, Heath Specialty Precast. I'm going to be pretty brief because we believe the staff report addresses the issues well. First, this is an application to annex approximately 10 acres of land into the city with light industrial zoning. The property is north of Victory Road, south of the airport. The requested annexation is proper because the property is contiguous to the city limits on the north and the southwest corner. In addition, city utilities are also currently available to the property. This includes water, sewer, and pressurized irrigation. The next part of the application, in the requested light industrial zoning of the property upon annexation, I think possibly the next slide, if you could. Let's see if it's working.
It's showing the comprehensive plan. Cheryl.
Okay, so yes, so with part of our application is the requested light industrial zoning of the property. This requested zoning is appropriate because light industrial is an approved zone for land designated as employment center on the comprehensive plan. And I was just told today that I believe the city has already changed this area into light industrial, so that's great. It's also compatible with other uses in the area. Let's see. So it is not before you tonight, but I did want to briefly touch on our future plans for this property. Following annexation and zoning, we intend to seek a one-time lot split to divide this property into 2 5-acre pieces. And I do have a slide on that if it is available.
It's showing now, Cheryl.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
I think there's a delay on my live feed. So our business, Heath Specialty Precast, will be purchasing the northern 5 acres, and Mr. Boucher will be purchasing the southern 5 acres. And with that, we continue to operate our precast business and are planning to expand. We currently employ 7 people and believe we will continue to grow as part of our expansion. Again, I thank you for your time, and we request that you approve the application for annexation and zoning. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer.
Council, are there any questions for Mrs. Heath or Miss Heath?
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
as far as accessing the back parcel, will there be a different access point, or will it just be a cross-access agreement across the front parcel onto yours?
So right now, if you're looking at the screen to the left, that is the access. There's actually two accesses to this property on the left and the right of the front parcel.
It's a little hard to see, but I think I see what you're saying. There's an easement line drawn along the west boundary that would give you access then on the southwest corner, and then one on the, southwest corner and the northwest corner, southeast corner and southwest corner, correct?
That is correct. So
okay.
The easement, if you're looking at the screen on the west corner, that easement is a road that goes up, and then the road takes a right to the south of the property, and then it goes up north. So that road is the access for all of the parcels that are in that area. But then also on the right side of the east-south corner, there is, if you were to take that access road all the way down, there is an access over there that crosses Mason Creek there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, so seeing none, we will move over. Thank you so much. We'll have you come right back, Cheryl, and then right now we'll move over to staff report. And I believe our staff report is Doug.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'll bring this up again. Okay, so again, the requested action for tonight is annexation and zoning to IL Light Industrial, adjacent to and east of 3502 East Victory Road on the north side of East Victory Road. The purpose is for a parcel split for future light industrial use, and this was approved and recommended to the council by the Planning and Zoning Commission. This total lot acreage is 10.17 acres. And in the comprehensive plan, this is showing as industrial use with a medium density industrial to the south of Victory Road and Nampa Airport to the north. The current zoning is to the north is light industrial, to the southwest is residential, and then enclaved county to the west in agricultural, and then east is vacant undeveloped, and that's light industrial in the county zoning as well. As was mentioned by the applicant, the utilities do service the site, and access is on East Victory Road, which is classified as a minor arterial road. Here's a bird's eye view of the property from the south looking northward. And here's a street view from East Victory Road through the property. We did receive correspondence from the various departments. There were no objections. One issue from code compliance is that all tall grass, weeds, and debris should be removed from public view. In the findings, the parcel is enclaved and it connects with the city limits along this northern boundary and southern boundary adjacent to East Victory Road. The parcel is part of a 125-acre enclaved area east of North Kings Road and north of Victory Road. It can be reasonably developed in an orderly fashion. The zoning conforms with the 2040 comprehensive plan industrial land use setting, and the property owner requests the annexation of zoning to IL for a split for future light industrial uses. The conditions of approval presented by the Planning and Zoning Commission are the same, and are listed in your staff report. And so the requested action this evening is an annexation and zoning to light industrial adjacent and east of 3502 East Victory Road on the north side of East Victory Road and 0 North Picard Lane for a split for future light industrial use for William Bauscher. And with that, I'll take any questions from the council.
Mayor Kling. Two questions. Doug, just for understanding, approximately it states here that 50% of the property is affected by the 100-year floodplain by the Mason Creek. And it states that any site development will therefore need to consider those areas of the site as part of the design process. Are they allowed to raise the property and actually diminish the amount of flood area? Is that what they're stating here, or do they have to maintain the current elevations to maintain the 100-year floodplain on the property?
Yeah, Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, I'm going to defer to Daniel for his expertise in this area.
Okay.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, those areas that are within the 100-year floodplain are allowed to be filled. There are areas closer into the Mason Creek that are within the floodway. Those areas are not allowed to be filled, but they are very minor on this site. Mainly just the channel of Mason Creek is the floodway. So as long as they're outside of that, they would be allowed to fill and request to remove those areas from the floodplain through FEMA.
Okay. Then a follow-up question. It states here that the property falls in the Nampa Airport Overlay District. Are they required to put any documents before our local airport commissioners or FEMA, or I'm sorry, the FAA, as far as a part of this project?
Mayor,
yes, go ahead, Daniel.
They likely would not have to do anything before the airport commission, depending on the heights they are looking at when they go for their actual building permits. They may have to do something with the FAA, though that's unless they're putting up a tower or something. They're far enough away. It's unlikely that they would be encroaching into the airport overlay elevations, though they are in that district.
So where would the applicant go to get that kind of direction?
The engineering division, we have copies of those overlay districts and the elevations that they would look at, and we would, work with them on that and address that with any building permits that come in.
Does that also cover reflectivity of any roof surfaces?
I'm not familiar with that. We'd have to get with Monty, the airport director, and see what he has for requirements on that, but we can certainly look at that with any building permits that come in.
All right, thank you, Daniel.
So,
Mayor, I have one question, and this is just a general question for Daniel.
Okay, before you move forward, Darrell, I'd like to pause and ask Doug Critchfield if he had any further comments. I know he started to say something in response. Doug, do you have any further comments?
No, I think Daniel answered that question. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Darrell.
This is just a general question for this development and future developments. Educate me again. I'm sure you have in the past, as far as on deferral on sidewalks. What's the process when there's further development? How do those sidewalks actually get done? Who administrates that?
Mayor, Councilman Bruner, at the time that they come in for their building permit, the city code would require that they install the sidewalks on Victory Road there, where it is an arterial or collector, one of the two. They would be required to install those sidewalks with the development and the building permits that go. If they were to request a deferral of those improvements to some point in the future, that action would come back before you for approval where it's not one of the specific allowances within the code.
Thank you, Daniel.
Are there any further questions for staff regarding this project before we move to public hearings? Okay, hearing none. This is a public hearing, and this is the opportunity for public to share testimony. We do not have anyone signed up to testify on behalf of or in opposition to this project. That said, this would be an opportunity for our applicant, Ms. Heath, to come back and make any closing comments, and then staff or council, if you have any questions for the applicant, this would be a good time for those. So feel free to provide us with some closing comments, Cheryl.
Thank you again for your time on this. We really appreciate it. My only comment was just that deferral of the sidewalk. Mr. Bauscher had talked to staff previously about that. So thank you for touching up on that. I don't think I have any questions. If Mr. Bauscher does, he is welcome to chime in here, but I think we are good.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Heath, I just wanted to ask you a question. Not that it matters, I'm just curious. Because you are building close to the airport. What kind of light industrial business do you think is going to go in there? Just curious.
So as I mentioned earlier, my husband and I, we do precast concrete products, architectural concrete products. So they're smaller. They're not the great big water system types of precast items. We plan to expand. Mr. Bauscher, they have a distributing company that they are planning on running. And I don't know what other plans they have for the front of that property. It's all pretty minor. Hardly qualifies for light industrial. But yeah.
Okay.
The buildings themselves would not, I do not anticipate really that many buildings exceeding 1 story. There may be a couple that are 2-story, but that's about it.
Okay, and I just want to thank you. That area needs to be worked and occupied, so thank you for that. I think that's going to be good there for you. Thank you.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. And our neighbor to the north, I know he just went through this process, and all of those buildings that you see above this property, they're making some great improvements on that property. So all around, I think it's just a positive thing.
Sure is. Thank you.
Wonderful. Is Mr. Bauscher, if he wants to log on, do you have any comments? I want to make sure I give you opportunity to comment before we close public hearing if you would like to.
No, I don't have any comments. This is Mr. Bauscher.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss an opportunity if you wanted to. So are there any further questions for the applicant or staff before we close public hearing? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Council discussion and or motion.
Mayor, if I could. I'll make a motion for the annexation zoning to light industrial to on East Victory Road for the applicant, and with conditions approved from the staff.
Second. I think Gene seconded that one.
I think I barely got you, Randy.
You got to be faster, Gene.
It's been moved and seconded. I do have a quick question just for clarification. I heard a comment, and I just need the reminder. I heard a comment regarding, I think, a deferral of the sidewalk. Is that included in the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
That's part of it?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
with the conditions of approval? Okay, just
Yes.
wanting to make sure.
Thank you for reminding me on that.
Okay. So, and Jean, is that something that you need to confirm, Jean, as a second, that it does include the deferral of the sidewalk?
Second with deferral of the sidewalk. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any council discussion or further discussion on this? Okay, roll call.
Bruner,
Yes.
Levi, Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Machi,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to just make a comment before we move to item 1.5 on the agenda. This is for Rodney and Doug. We are very, very well ahead of schedule. And for council, we had a break from between 7 and 7:30, and it would be my recommendation that we do not take that break. We are so far ahead of schedule, we could actually end much earlier this evening. It is my understanding that for each of the public hearings, it was required that if someone wanted to speak at a public hearing, that they needed to sign up in advance. We did not have anyone sign up in advance to speak at the public hearings. So with that, I've asked staff to please reach out to the applicants and have them log on early so that we can continue moving through. Is that okay with the council?
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay.
Totally.
Yes.
Okay, that way we can get done earlier this evening. I don't want us to sit here for an hour waiting for an applicant. So I would like confirmation from Rodney and Doug. Right now, we're going to be a full hour ahead of schedule, I think, because we only have we have two more hearings with no testimony, and then we have a break until 7:30. So we are going to need our 7:30 applicants to be online ready to go by 6:30. So, and then the first one, and Rodney, you have both of those.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Rodney. Do you have someone that can reach out to you for you?
Yeah, that's my question. I have the next one, and then I have the last three. So I will try to, I know that this next one is online right now. He is in the meeting, Mr. Mark Sparrow. And then during Doug's, I will try to reach out to all my other applicants.
Okay. Or I wonder, okay.
Rodney, do you have Kent Brown on?
No, I don't.
I'll reach out to him. And then you mentioned you have the last three. Is item number, public hearing number 9, was that suspended or is it still?
No,
Yeah.
Item number 9 is also continuing. I missed
Okay.
that one there.
Okay, no problem.
So item number 9 is a continuation. It is not taking place.
No, I'm sorry, Mayor. That one is actually Doug's. I just
Nine
read it.
is Doug's.
My list.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'll reach out to the applicants then.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so Doug, you're going to reach out to Kent Brown and ensure that he is ready to go
Yes.
because he will be next. And then Rodney, you'll have some phone calls to make really fast. So I think we're ready for item number 1.5 on the agenda. This is a variance of section 10-10-16D, minimum property structure and parking front yard setback for the RD zoning district. This is requiring a 20-foot front yard setback at 235 High Street. This is a 0.1 acre parcel, and this is for Mark Sparrow. And so I think I understand our applicant is on. I see you there. And
Hello.
Thank you for giving us your name and address.
My name is Mark Sparrow, 10270 Duck Lane, Nampa, Idaho, 83686.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and feel free to share with us about your project.
All right, well, this has been kind of an interesting little project. This permit had been granted in 2006 for this building on this lot. And when I submitted it for a building permit, lo and behold, I found out that with the change in the building code that we lost 6 inches, we had to add 6 inches to the property to go to 2x6 construction. So, I mean, we added 6 inches to the building. So that cut our setback down to 19.5 feet, which really caught me by surprise. And so I asked the staff if we could apply for a variance, and they thought that that would be a good idea, and I believe they support my application.
Thank you, Mr. Sparrow. And so we're asking for a variance for only 6 inches?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you for going through the process for 6 inches. And I appreciate your patience having to wait for this. In the future, I would say that should be a staff approval. But we can talk about that legally because I feel bad for you having to set and go through a public hearing process for a 6-inch variance. But we can talk about that another time. So with that, let's move over to Rodney for staff report.
Mayor and City Council, thank you. You are absolutely right. It is for 6 inches, and unfortunately, because of the way our code is written, they are required to get a variance for any variance from our code. I think the application is before you. As you can see, the action requested, and a concept drawing of the building that is being proposed. This is in the general commercial. I'm sorry, this is not showing correctly. It's a RD residential zone in the medium density residential designation on the comp plan. A little bit closer view here. You can see the proposed property, 235 High Street. And let me go back one screen. You can see it's along High Street and just west of Canyon Street. The land use is vacant, vacant lot in its current situation. To the north are single-family homes as well as triplexes in a duplex residential zone or RD zone. To the south are Westview fourplexes in a RD zone. To the east are single-family homes, or a single-family home, I should say, and zoned RD. And to the west is the Westview fourplexes, zoned RD as well. So it's surrounded by residential, or the RD zoning designation. Okay. It's approximately almost 8,000 square feet. Utilities serve the property or are very nearby. Transportation access. On the staff report, we mentioned that it would be off of Barrett's Court, but it's actually to the east of the property down a service drive that would be improved. You can see the drawing there. The property under discussion right now is on the left-hand side of this screen. And you can also see the service drive. So applicable regulations 1024-1 are the conditions for variances. They do need to show an undue hardship because of special characteristics applicable to the site, typically a topography or the shape of the parcel, something like that. And it needs to be not in conflict with the public interest. And the second bullet point there, the purposes of a variance is to provide fair treatment and to see that individuals are not penalized because of site characteristics beyond their control. And again, it should be beyond the interest of making additional money. It needs to have some kind of undue hardship related to the property. Again, these are in the variance section of our code as well. And these are all related to that hardship. These are in your staff report. Uh, 10.10.6 that states that there's a 20-foot minimum setback for a front yard in the zone. Correspondence, we received really no significant comments, except from Nampa Meridian Irrigation District just stated that the drainage must be retained on site, which is a typical condition. So if the City Council votes to approve a variance, they must find that there's a topographical hardship or unique site circumstance that warrants a variance. In the past, variances have been issued on a case-by-case basis where a unique situation would be determined to exist. In this case, the applicant made no justification for the hardship in the application. So the city council will need to determine if they have made that case this evening. Recommended conditions are that the variance will expire after 6 months of inactivity on the property, including an application for a building permit. So if they, within that 6 months, they apply for a building permit, then it's met that condition. And I placed a potential motion on the screen for you and would stand for questions.
Mayor, I don't have any, this is Doral, I don't have any questions on the 6-inch variance. I'm just curious with Mr. Sparrow, if that bear skin on his back wall, if he's responsible for it. I'm jealous. Now, he maybe didn't hear me.
Was there a question for me? I didn't hear.
Yeah, it was not regarding your 6-inch. I'm fine with that, Mr. Sparrow. I'm just curious, that bear skin on your back wall there, you have me curious. Are you responsible for that?
Yeah, I've got 2 others in here too, and in Buffalo.
Way to go. All right.
That's misfit youth when you live in Alaska.
All right. All right. Thanks.
I think we lost the mayor.
Mayor, you're on mute.
Thank you. I mute myself and forget to unmute. Mr. Sparrow, are you intending to apply for your permit in the next 6 months?
The permit is waiting for this variance to be approved, and once that's done, the permit will be approved and I can start construction.
Perfect. Okay. Are there any further questions for staff or Mr. Sparrow? Okay, this is a public hearing and there is no one signed up to testify on behalf of or in opposition of this project. That said, would the applicant like to make any closing comments before we close public hearing? And that would be Mr. Sparrow. Do you have any closing comments before we close?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Council, do you have any further questions? I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second, Doral.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is council discussion, or I'd stand for a motion.
Mayor Kling, I'd be more than happy to make a motion to allow the variance as presented to us this evening. There was only one recommended condition of approval, but with that one condition as well.
Doral, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi, Bauer,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Mr. Sparrow, thank you for your patience for this process for 6 inches. And I hope you enjoy your project.
Thank you, and I'd just like to take a minute to compliment the staff. I know it's been difficult for them to come in and work and keep up with things, but they've done a great job.
Thank you. I bet they appreciate hearing that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next public hearing is Kent Brown will be our applicant, and I see that he is online, so we'll go ahead and start. Item 1.6 on the agenda is an annexation and zoning to light industrial at 16658 Northside Boulevard for future industrial use. This is a 1.52 acre parcel, and this is for Kent Brown representing the Adler Family Trust. And Kent Brown. And go ahead and state your name, even though we know it, and address. And Kent, I see you on there, but I see that you're muted. There you go.
I can talk now?
Yes.
Okay. This is Kent Brown. My address is 3161 East Springwood, Meridian, Idaho. And my clients a year ago had me submit the property to the north and east of this site for annexation to light industrial. They purchased this piece and are just adding it to the other properties that they have so that they can do light industrial work in the future. They've told me that they're in agreement with the conditions of approval, and I'll stand for any questions.
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Brown? Seeing none, as you know the process, we will move to staff report and then we'll come back to you if we have any further questions. Well, we'll let you do closing comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staff report, Doug.
Yes, Mayor and Council, thank you. I'm working on this. There we go.
Good job.
Thank you. There we go. From the beginning. Okay. Mayor and Council, Doug Critchfield, Principal Planner. This is a annexation and zoning to light industrial at 16658 Northside Boulevard for Alder Revocable Family Trust for future industrial use. This its stated purpose is to help meet the demands for industrial development in Nampa. The site is approximately 1.5 acres. Comp plan is industrial, and the surrounding north, south, and east is light industrial, and west is county agricultural. And here's a view of the comprehensive plan. It sets well within the industrial land use setting of the comprehensive plan. The area zoning is also shown here, as it was just mentioned, and you can see its adjacency to industrial zoning. The utilities that are available to this site is a 12-inch water main at north side. Pressure irrigation would have to be extended from 16570 Northside Boulevard north to the subject property. And then the sewer would have to be extended from 16570 Northside as well. And that's to the, again, to the north of the subject property. Access is from Northside Boulevard. Here's an aerial view of the site. And here's a bird's eye view looking eastward. The staff findings on this project, it is in conformance with the comprehensive future land use map. It's compatible with the surrounding zoning, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the annexation and zoning to the City Council. The findings, as listed in your staff report, are consistent with the, again, the surrounding zoning. It can be reasonably developed in an orderly fashion, and it conforms with the city comprehensive plan and the request from the owner applicant, again, is for light industrial use. The recommended conditions as listed in your staff report indicates some dedication of right-of-way and some prescriptive right-of-way located west of the section line along the parcel frontage with the annexation. That any future development of the site will require placement of sidewalk per city standards along north side frontage. And then there's some discussion about utilities upon the development, and they'll work that out with the engineering department. And so with that, the requested action, annexation and zoning to light industrial for future industrial development. And with that, I'll take any questions from council. Thank you.
Council, are there any questions? None. I do have one quick question. Has the applicant agreed to the conditions of approval?
Yes, we are in agreement with the conditions of approval.
Okay, thank you. So that said, this is a public hearing and there is no one signed up to testify on behalf of or in opposition to this project. So I would ask council, do you have any further questions for Mr. Brown or for staff before we close public hearing? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Council? Stand for discussion or a motion?
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to allow the annexation and zoning to IL to move forward with the recommended conditions of approval.
Darrell, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Sachi?
Yes.
Levi? Bauer?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Mr. Brown, thank you for joining us this evening via the web. We appreciate it, and I think you're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we are absolutely 1 hour ahead of schedule, and that is amazing. And so I guess the question for Rodney, we have three, let me think, we've got 4 public hearings, one of which is Doug's, and then 3 are Rodney's. And so Blake Wolf is the next public hearing.
And he's online.
Oh, good. That's wonderful. Okay. So we are going to move to item 1.7 on the agenda. This is annexation and zoning to multifamily residential at 1002 North Happy Valley Road and 4719 Stam Lane for multiple family residential use. This is a 3.53 acre portion, and it's also recognized as Tax 7, Tax 16272 and lots 1 and 2 of Orchalara Heights. This is for Blake Wolf with Wolf Building Company. And if Mr. Wolf is our applicant, go ahead and give us your name and address again, and we'll be ready.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, my name is Blake Wolf, Wolf Building Company. My address is 843 West Horizon Way here in Nampa, and I'm very thankful you and the council has figured this out and able to move forward with these projects. It's awesome. I appreciate it. What I'm presenting for approval is about approximately 3.5 acres at the southeast location of or intersection of Stam Lane and Happy Valley. It consists of 2 just about equal parcels. Our project is a multifamily project. We're looking for the RMH zoning designation, which is the zoning to the west and south. The request is conducive and in harmony with the comprehensive plan. It's contiguous on most sides, all sides except for the east side to city limits. Our project is a multifamily project consisting of roughly 44 units as of today. Let me try to share some pictures here. Okay, can you see that? Is that something you can see? Okay.
Whoops, yes, it is.
Okay. It's a townhouse style project. It will be apartments. They won't be townhouses. They'll look like townhouses. We're going for kind of an upper end type of product that is little above apartment, but less than a house, to put it in those type of terms. They'll all have a garage. this particular building, they're all 2-car garages, 2 stories. The site layout will look similar to this, consisting of 5 plexes and 6 plexes, with the west facing along Happy Valley will be the front doors, and also on the east side, the front doors will face out for the neighbors to see. It's going to be kind of a medium to higher end product, where it's more like a residential housing product versus an apartment complex. That's the goal. All utilities are available. The site will complete that intersection. The sidewalks will be there for the public to get to Winco and the Gateway development. And yeah, it's just I'm really excited. It's gonna look real sharp. There's gonna be lots of stones and bricks and painting and siding. It's just gonna be a nice looking product. I think that's it. Do you have any questions for me?
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Wolf?
Mayor, this is Darrell. Just a curiosity, Blake. Are you planning on building and owning? Is that your plan?
I plan on building it and developing it. I'm doing it for a client.
Okay. Very good.
Are there any further?
Clean?
Yes.
No, excuse me, were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. Blake, isn't there a couple of houses on that intersection right now on that property?
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez, there's currently pretty old 2-story, really nice looking classic house there right at the intersection. The lot's kind of messy. And then right behind that is one of the Fulcher's houses that's very nice setup. And that one abuts the newer assisted living there to the south.
Okay, and follow up, Mayor, if I could. Blake, so did you talk to the Fulcher residents behind that? Are they okay with this or?
To clarify, behind, you mean to the east or to the south?
To the east.
To the east, there was a few people that showed up the P&Z hearing that only, let me see here. One was from the east down that lane with those nicer houses on the bigger lots. They were just concerned about the typical items that come with multifamily, the perception of possible crime, higher density housing, and then traffic, of course, is always a hot topic. The Cascadia facility to the south, their concern was just provide sidewalks so those residents can easily get to Winco and to the Gateway, which is naturally part of our project to complete that intersection. I will say that one family to the east, Mr. Rodriguez, asked that we continue that same fence style along our, that kind of a budding line there, which is not a problem at all.
Okay, and that was my next question, was at the intersection if there is sufficient traffic, or not traffic, you can walk traffic across the street.
Yes.
It's a crosswalk, right?
I'm not sure if the crosswalk is completed on the east side of that intersection, but the sidewalk and the pedestrian ramps will be with our project.
Okay. That's the other thing. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Wolf? Okay.
Mr. Wolf? Oh, Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Will the old White House be demolished?
Not unless somebody wants it. It's the 2-story. If you're referring to the 2-story, they're really hard to move because of power lines. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure on the single story. That family has the option to relocate the house. They've got so many months actually after we close if they want to keep the house, pick it up and move it. But the 2-story, I don't know. It's a cool house though.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, we'll move over to Rodney, staff report. And Blake, as you know, the process will come back to you shortly. Hey, Rodney.
Can everybody see that screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I've highlighted the area he's talking about there in blue, just Happy Valley, North and South Road, and Stam Lane, east and west. All right, so we'll start off with the comprehensive plan. This is designated as community mixed use, but the high density residential is directly to the west. And there's, of course, the apartments there just to the west across the street. The proposed zoning is RMH, which is consistent with the high density residential. And then surrounding land uses is JCPenney to the north. That's BC designation zoning district. To the south, there are single-family homes and pasture. And then to the east is, I have a hard time with the way to say this, Orchalara Heights, single-family residential subdivision. That's a county residential zone. And to the west are the station apartments at Gateway in the RMH zone. You can see a little closer view there. It's to the west and to the south are both RMH zone. Here, aerial view of those. Can't see where the station apartments are the buildings are, but you can see the address points for each of them. There are utilities available in the area. Sewer service is available in Happy Valley Road. And access to the property is from both Stam Lane and Happy Valley Road currently. Will need to be determined under consultation with the engineering division at the time of permit where exactly that access will be. But as Mr. Wolf showed on his concept, I believe it was to Happy Valley. Okay, so Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with the proposed findings and recommendations found in your staff report. There were 3 people who testified at the public hearing against the project, and Mr. Wolf has highlighted those exact concerns that were mentioned at that public hearing. Inconsistent with the area, the density concerns, perceptions of increased crime, and negative impact on the property values, and then of course transportation or traffic. They made some requests. They asked for a limit to 2 stories and provide landscaping buffer and fence along the eastern boundary. They did request lower density, but the commission didn't speak to that or include that in the motion. And then of course the concerns for Cascadia were that they wanted that sidewalk to continue up to Happy Valley and Stam intersection. And then of course that will be done as part of this development. There is not a current crosswalk at that intersection from this location because it's a rural property. The signal is not within sidewalks. The signal pole right there is not within sidewalks, but the ramps would be, as has been stated, the ramps would be placed as part of this development. Nampa Meridian Irrigation, they just wanted to make sure that all drainage is retained on site. Nampa Code Enforcement, there's no code violations at 1002 Happy Valley Road, but on 4719 Stam Lane, they just need to maintain the weeds in front of Stam Lane at the time of annexation. The code enforcement's concerns, if we approve annexation like this, it becomes their problem to resolve the concerns about high weeds or conditions of the property that don't meet city codes. And so their recommendation is that the property become in compliance to city codes before the annexation is finalized. And that's for your consideration tonight. Nampa Engineering Division, I've stated their comments and their requests in your staff report and included their conditions in the proposed conditions of staff for this project. In order for the property to be annexed, it must be contiguous, and this is of course contiguous on the northwest and south boundaries. The proposed zoning and land use is compatible with the comprehensive plan. And these are the recommended conditions that I've also included in your staff report. And the recommended findings that are in your staff report and required by city code. And then a potential motion, and I would stand for questions.
Are there any questions for staff for Rodney? Rodney, as I'm rather than having my document up, I was just looking at yours. So in your recommended conditions of approval, did that include the fencing that was recommended? I saw the sidewalk, but I didn't remember seeing the fencing. Is it in there? You can just go back a couple slides if you want.
I don't think that's in there. I'm looking at the action letter right now from Planning and Zoning. And it didn't look like they put that in their motion, but it's something to definitely consider for tonight.
Okay, did I understand correctly that there were residents, and I thought I understood, and maybe I could ask Mr. Wolf this question, because I think he mentioned the fencing. Is that something that he was planning on doing? Blake, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Mayor, yes, that would be part of the plan, and I'm okay if you want to put it part of the recommendations for approval.
To include the recommended fencing?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for answering that. Make a note. Okay.
So
are there
Mayor, what was mentioned by our code enforcement, that is not in the condition of approval at this point? They wanted it in there or not, Rodney?
That's correct. They would like that as part of the conditions.
Okay, and Blake, are you okay with that?
All I can do is ask the sellers to comply to that because we don't own the ground yet. I imagine they will since they've had it on the market for 7 or 8 years. And if that's the one thing they have to do, but I can't force somebody's hand that we don't own the property yet.
I understand. So that would be up to code enforcement to work with the current seller. Okay.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Okay, so this is a public hearing and we do not have anyone signed up to testify on behalf of or in opposition to this project. I would like to ask if council has any additional questions for the applicant or staff before we close public hearings. Okay, seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearings.
Darrell, so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, council discussion and or motion.
Okay, this is Darrell again. I'll make the motion that we accept the proposal of annexation and zoning to RMH with the conditions of approval with adding the fencing requirement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes, and then we get to see Mr. Wolf again, I see. Okay.
So Sandy's yes actually echoed out everyone she's missed and hasn't been able to log in for. So we caught them all right there. That was great.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. So item number 1.8 on the agenda is annexation and zoning to RS 18, which is single family residential, 18,000 square foot at the southwest corner of the intersection of West Dooley Lane and South Stanford Street. This is adjacent and north of 3125 South Stanford Street. It's a 1.08 acre portion for a single family residential lots for Blake Wolf. And Blake, I don't know that you need to state your address again, but thank you. And I'll let you as the applicant speak on behalf of this.
Yes, so what we got here is a 1 acre site right at the corner of the intersection of Stanford and Dooley Lane. It is directly south of Bay Hill and Shalimar. It had one single building permit on it through the county, but after further research, the plumbing code kicks in where if you're too close to a sewer main, you have to hook in instead of using a septic. Once that kicked in, we decided that we obviously have to annex to get access to city utilities. And the RS18 is the most compatible zoning, one of the most compatible zonings for the comp plan in that area. And that's why we chose that. So we will be bringing sewer from Shalimar to our site, and then utilizing our one-time administrative split after the zoning has been completed to do 2 single-family homes on a half acre each. This too will complete this intersection. The surrounding area has kind of a hodgepodge of homes. Obviously, Bay Hill across the street and Shalimar have very nice homes. There's a beautiful home going in behind this lot to the south, and then just kind of a vast array of houses down Stanford and Dooley that way too. It is contiguous to the city. Water and pressurized irrigation is out front. I understand the conditions of approval if it goes through, and I am okay with it. That's all I got. Questions?
Thank you for addressing that right off the bat, that you're good with conditions of approval. We appreciate that. Are there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, Blake, we'll be back to you as we close with any further questions. Rodney?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one is pretty straightforward. Not a lot to discuss on this one. He's requesting it for hookup to city services. It's just a little over an acre. It's in the low density residential on the comprehensive plan. And the proposed zoning is the RS 18. To the north is single family residential. Whoops, sorry. RS 6. To the south is rural residential enclave. It's a residential zoning for the county. And same for the east and west. Again, that comprehensive plan designation, proposed zoning. There are utilities available, which is why it's being requested. The access is from Dooley Lane and South Stanford Street. It's a pretty open lot, ready to be developed. There's a bird's eye view there. And there's, we can go through the land uses that are allowed, but it's pretty much residential, single-family residential. So planning and zoning history: on March 10th, the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval of the proposed annexation and zoning to RS 18. And they approved the recommendation with the proposed conditions in the staff report. This fits the comprehensive plan. No concerns there. All correspondence is attached in the staff report and incorporated into the recommended conditions. However, I did receive a correspondence from Boise Project Board of Control that was after the submittal of the staff report and packet. So I will read through their comments right now. There are no Boise project facilities located on the above-mentioned property. However, it does in fact possess a valid water right. Local irrigation drainage ditches that cross this property in order to serve neighboring properties must remain unobstructed and protected by an appropriate easement. Storm drainage and/or street runoff must be retained on site. And then they give their contact information: Thomas Riddler from the Boise project. So these are the recommended conditions. They are stated in the staff report and in your packet. The recommended findings, same thing. And here's a potential motion, and I'd stand for questions.
Rodney, was the last item that you just read included in the recommendations, or is that something, as Blake Wolf said, he agreed to the recommendations? Was that included in that?
So there's really no condition there. All they're stating is that they have a water right.
Right.
So.
Okay. And Blake, you're aware of that?
Yeah, I am now. That's fine. I believe when we hook into the city system, those water rights are turned over to the city, but I could be wrong there.
Okay. So there are no questions regarding that issue?
No questions.
Okay. Council, do you have any further questions for staff? Okay, so this is a public hearing, and as mentioned before, we do not have anyone signed up to testify in opposition to or on behalf of this particular project. That said, Council, if you have any additional questions, now would be the time to address your questions to Mr. Wolf or Rodney. And I realize, Blake, I forgot to let you close with any final comments. Do you have any final comments you would like to make?
Just a lot of you might be familiar with Dooley, and it goes up and down. There's actually some blind spots pulling in and out. I've already talked with Eddie at the Highway District, and we've both agreed that the access would be best for both lots to come onto Stanford first. I don't know if that was a concern to council or staff, but Eddie and I have already discussed that, and we both think that's the best solution, because there is a big blind spot if you pull on just the right spot there. But other than that, no other comments.
Thank you. Thank you for your due diligence on that. Council, any further questions? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearings.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion and/or motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the annexation zoning to RS 18 in the southwest corner of West Dooley Lane and South Stanford for Mr. Blake Wolf.
With conditions of approval?
Second, with conditions of approval.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mayor, no really discussion. I just want to compliment Blake Wolf on his developments now and in the future, and also for encouraging us to get on with these planned hearings. So he was one of the encouragers. So thank you, Blake.
I would agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call.
Bruner,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Blake, you're done much earlier than expected this evening with good news.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for your work in our community.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Okay. Did I hear something? No. Okay, so Doug Critchfield has the next one, and I just want to double check. I don't have the name of the applicant. I'm just looking here. Is your applicant online and available?
So the applicant is Tatiana Shervac or somebody from Zenith Homes.
Were you able to reach them?
Yes, I was able to reach a family member of one of the presenters this evening and indicated to be on at about 7 o'clock. So the timing was right on there.
I haven't seen anybody in the waiting room, so it might just need a minute or so.
Okay. And while we're waiting, let's look at your next applicant is going to be, okay, that's Randy representing Ron Kennedy. Who's actually the applicant on the next hearing?
On the next hearing?
Yes, 110.
That would be me.
Okay, so you are going to not be present as a council member at this point, which is good. It's the last one, because you are the applicant.
Yeah, I'll be putting on a different hat.
Okay.
And recusing myself from any vote.
Okay, and no discussion other than the applicant discussion.
Yeah, basically, it's pretty straightforward.
Perfect. Thank you. I thought while we're waiting, and so let's see if we have anyone waiting to come in.
So this would be, Mayor, this would be for Zenith Homes. Is there anybody on for Zenith Homes? Mayor, if it's okay with you, can I try giving them a call again?
And as a point of order, and this would be asking legal, would it be okay if we move to item 110 on the agenda since we don't have anyone signed up to testify? Is it okay if we move on to item 110 while we're waiting for the applicant to arrive for 19?
Mayor and council, yes, I think that'd be fine, particularly in the context where we know exactly who wants to testify. We have all that beforehand, so I think that'd be perfectly fine to reorder those at this point.
Thank you, Doug. So let's go ahead and move to 110. Rodney, we'll go ahead and go with you on 110, and Doug, you can be watching for your applicant, and we'll go to them next. So we're going to move to 110 on the agenda. This is a development agreement, a zoning map amendment for RS6 single family residential to multifamily residential at 916 East Colorado Avenue, 915 East Bird Avenue, and 908 and 912 South Elder Avenue. This is an approximate 2.53 acre project. This is for Randy Haverfield, Architecture Northwest, representing Ron Kennedy for Colorado Avenue Apartments. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with a development agreement for 2-story only. So, and our applicant this evening is Randy Haverfield.
Mayor Kling, thank you. Yes. Randy Haverfield, 1015 Heartland Drive here in Nampa. It's a pretty straightforward request. The current property is zoned RS6 to be able to bring it into more of in compliance with the comp plan, which is for high density residential. My client has asked to zone it RMH. In this current area, there's 5 different zonings in and around the property. You can see on the screen, and Rodney will speak to it, the brown, dark brown is all high density in the comp plan. The balance of it is other zoning types. So what we'd like to do is the property is located with frontage on Colorado on the south. And it has a section of Elder that used to cross about a third of the way through on the east side, that section of Elder has been vacated, and there will be no access onto this parcel from Colorado. That'll go away on that curvature. So access to this property for development purposes will be on Fern on the west, and then on Bird on the north side of the property. No access on Colorado. The landscape setback requirements on Colorado is 15 feet as far as, so there'll be a 15-foot wide landscape buffer around that curvature. Sidewalk is already there. New sidewalk will be added along the west and north sides on Fern and Bird. Those setbacks, again, are 10-foot landscape. The Planning and Zoning Commission had only one item that they had added to the recommended conditions of approval, which was that the structures be residential in character and be no more than two stories in height. My client has no problem with those requirements, and also I believe there was a request for a enter into the development agreement, which limits the height of the buildings to 2-story, which we'll do. With that being said, I'll be here to answer any questions you might have. And again, for clarity, I will not be voting on this evening.
Mayor, just a question. Randy, so is it just this development just on the west side of Elder, or there's also vacant lot on the east side, or is something happening there also?
Rodney, can you blow that up so that it's easier to see on the screen? There you go. You can see Elder basically splits the property in 2/3 and a third. That section of Elder has already been vacated.
Okay, so Elder is going away. That's what you said. Okay.
That's correct. There will be no access onto Colorado off of Elder on the north side of Colorado. There is, although, utilities in the street or in that section of street that will have to create an easement for the city to maintain, and we won't be able to put any structures over the top of that portion. So the development will be basically split with probably a drive lane that's internal only off of that section of Elder to the north.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions for applicant?
Yeah, Mayor Kling, I have one.
Yes.
Randy, across the street, there are the 3-story apartment complexes.
Yes.
So is that what you designed just for two-story? Is that all? Or would you go 3?
No, it's limited to 2-story. The neighbors that came out to the planning and zoning hearing did not want to see something as tall as the ones across Colorado, which are 3-story. So they did request, and planning and zoning, as a part of their recommended conditions of approval, stated that we would limit our structures to 2 stories in height and more residential in character.
Okay, and also follow up, Mayor. Mm-hmm. Is this going to be a living housing situation for NNU students, or is this totally separate?
No, there is a potential that there would be students that might choose to rent in these apartments. They'll have garages as far as involved with them as well. But the students, as far as the number of students, and Darrell can speak to this probably better than I could, the number of students that actually live off campus are less than the ones that actually live on campus and choose to live on campus. But there might be some that would choose to be here. It is within easy biking distance to the campus, so it would make a great location for them, and it'll be a really nice development as well.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And Mayor, just mainly a comment. Yes, that's true. Of course, freshmen and sophomores are, unless they're living with families, are required to live on campus. Mm-hmm. So this would be upperclassmen. The other little historical, which I'm sure Randy is aware, this for years and years was the Nazarene Camp Meeting Campground, and that's been vacant. And so this is to me a great infill project. So thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
I would also state that it brings back fond memories of the days that it was the old structure that we used during the summer months. Very hot, but it was a neat old structure to be having our camp meetings in.
That's great. Okay, so let's move to staff report. Rodney?
Okay, Mayor and Council, a lot of my staff report has been covered, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly.
Thank you.
You've seen the comprehensive plan. The zoning is currently RS6, but as you can see to the south is the RMH designation. And so there is precedent for that zone in that area. And as has been mentioned, there are 5 different zoning districts in the immediate area. Let's see. To the north is single family and duplex residential. To the south are apartments, as has been mentioned. I think I've got a slide on those. To the east is a child daycare. To the west is single family residential. There's the lot there. It's been vacant a long time. I remember when we did the university district plan, we even discussed maybe a garden or something for the area, but it's good to see this finally being considered to be developed. There are utilities through the property since a portion of Elder Street has been vacated. And we've already covered the access. Emergency services, we've been doing this a little bit more. They've just made comments that adding to the population in the city without increasing the number of police officers will have an impact on reaching their racial goal. But this is an infill development, and so there's less of a concern there because they're already serving the area. It just increases the demand a little bit. Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing was held on the 25th of February. We had 2 people signed up in favor, 4 people spoke in opposition, and 4 people spoke as undecided. And I've summarized those concerns. I think Mr. Haverfield covered a lot of these comments, but there were concerns from the neighborhood that this is a primarily single-family home neighborhood and that apartments don't really fit. A perception that apartments bring greater criminal behavior. A concern about invasion of privacy with higher, taller buildings that may look over into the backyards. Traffic onto Colorado is already a concern. Of course, in this development, they are not proposing direct access onto Colorado, but eventually it could have some impact there. And then the potential appearance of the apartments, they were concerned about the ones across the street, the Colorado Gardens apartments. And they didn't like basically the boxy shape, the tall buildings, and some people said the colors didn't like. So there was some concern that would be similar. So the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval and as has been stated, with the condition that it remain only, or the height be limited to 2 stories. And then the first condition there is that that easements shall be dedicated to the city of Nampa for the maintenance of the sewer, water, and pressure irrigation main lines in the vacated section of South Elder Street, which Mr. Haverfield discussed would basically separate his development there. Correspondence. City of Nampa Engineering Division talked about the easements there. We also had a couple of letters. The first one was from Marianne Beck, and Bonnie Garris also stated support for this letter. And I've summarized Marianne Beck's comments, and I've included that in your packet as well. But their concern was that the applicant hasn't worked with the neighbors as promised. They said that they supported the P&Z's recommendation for 2 stories. They believed that apartments weren't consistent with a single-family neighborhood. They asked us to table the project until more detailed plans are provided by the applicant. They were concerned about the fact that there was no concept or renderings at the public hearing. And then they also claimed that more people would oppose if the hearing was done in a traditional manner. The next letter I got was from Fred and Mary Burton. I've summarized their comments as well. They are willing to support the project if the recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission is limiting the height to 2 stories is confirmed. Some of the same concerns. They were just concerned that no concept drawings were presented, no site plan was presented at the public hearing, and then they would like the council to require the developer that work with the neighborhood to develop their plans. Not really sure how that would take place, but that was their request. And then finally, preference for properties to be developed as a park instead of housing. So staff analysis, I've mentioned that there's 5 different zoning districts in the area. The comprehensive plan designates this as higher density residential development. And this was in consideration of the university nearby, but also the area and the desire for infill development. This felt like a good use for higher density residential in the city. And then I just addressed the concept plan issue that was brought up by concerned citizens. It comes down to a balancing act between presenting enough details for you to consider it, and then also minimizing the expense until they're sure that they can move forward because they receive the planning entitlements. So that is really a case-by-case situation, and you may require it, but zoning districts are created with a list of permitted uses, and they have all those conditions in them for setbacks, height standards, parking, all those things. And typically that just allows you to guide the development in that district rather than on a case-by-case basis. However, a rezone of the property allows the council to consider specific requirements that you'd like to place on them so that it fits into that neighborhood. In a typical situation for annexation and zoning, there's not a lot of development out there yet. And so you can select the zone and understand that it's going to be developed according to zoning code. In this situation where it's infill, you may desire to have a few more requirements on it to make it compatible. So the recommended findings are stated here and in your packet. It does conform to the comprehensive plan. The recommended conditions of approval are stated on the screen and in your packet. And one of those is that they enter into a development agreement for the 2 stories, and Mr. Haverfield has already said that they agree to that. And there is a potential motion for you, and I would stand for questions.
So I have a quick question regarding the design side. This will have to go before design review, correct?
No.
No, it will not. So in the development agreement, and Randy, thank you for mentioning that you guys have agreed to 2-story. The only other comment that isn't addressed in the development agreement is that some people commented was the color and of Colorado Gardens. And so do we need to put something? I mean, I don't think we need to, because I think you would probably do it anyway. But out of courtesy to the other citizens, put something in the development agreement regarding the aesthetics of the building as it relates to, I think they commented they prefer not to see something of like a blue building.
Mayor Kling? Yes, that's definitely the direction that we would be going, would be more of a residential character building, not something that's more contemporary like the Colorado Gardens. That presentation, that's not at all what we have in mind. Ours will be more of a craftsman style home design with stone, integration of stone, vertical and horizontal siding types, shingle roofs, garages to minimize the number of of cars on the, as far as parking on the lot, and just a good balance of studio to 2-bedroom units. So the problem you have with showing too much information with a simple, all of this is a zoning map amendment request to go to the level of definition that some might need or like to see. There's a lot of expense without any commitments by the city to go, to allow this to move forward in the entitlement process. So I appreciate what Rodney had to say and how he framed it, but that's exactly true. You can spend a lot of money and not get the end result of even having a development that's approved.
Thank you. Rodney, could you move back to the recommended actions slide? Okay. I was just thinking that what you could do is with the development agreement where you've limited the height of the proposed buildings just as it is, and a short version of what you shared, Randy, that the style will be in keeping with a residential whatever, to take care of that one comment.
Yeah.
Those concerns.
Yeah, if you wanted to add something, I don't see it stated there, but residential character with pitched roofs instead of the flat roofs that you see across the street there on the Colorado Gardens. Again, 2-story is going to be smaller in height than the 3-story that's across the street. And that's what they were having issues with, was not only the flat facades, but the height. The way that this would be, the way that I visualize it being developed, the landscaping around the perimeter, the building set back off even further, 20 to 30 feet off of the property lines, so that, again, you're minimizing the actual structures with the landscaping. That's not what they've done across the street there either. So if you wanted to add that as a residential character with earth tones and stone, something to that effect, I think that would kind of cover the intent, at least my intent, of what I'd be developing.
Thank you for your willingness to do that, Randy.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I may ask, this is my second time for asking for education. So Rodney, if you could help me then, the Garden Heights, I have not been fond of how that turned out. So how do we as a city have control if we don't have, if it doesn't go before the design committee, control where we're not looking at boxes? And I know that building will be fine probably for 10 years, but I can see it really deteriorating, and it has no architectural appeal, in my opinion, at all. So how do we control that in the future?
Yeah, agreed. I think including multifamily development into design review would go a long ways there. It would be an increase to our work, but I think that's probably where the city seems to be going already, and I think staff here would support that direction.
So, Mayor or Rodney, does that need to be a new ordinance then for that to happen?
It does.
Okay, so I would recommend that then when we can at a future council meeting to take that up for consideration.
I fully support that, and Doug Waterman's on the line, so is in the meeting. So Doug, that's just an action item for you. Thank you for the comment. Okay, so are there any further questions for the applicant or staff before we move on?
Mayor, yes. I have a question. Randy, is this a market rate development or is this mixed income?
I'm sorry, can you restate your question?
Is this a market rate development or is this mixed income like Colorado Gardens?
This is not subsidized housing, if that's what you're asking. But the units, as far as being able to size them from studio size to 2-bedroom units, allows there to be flexibility in who they could rent them to. The intent is a build and own development by one property owner, not multiple buildings that are sold off. So the intent is for the long haul. So I would imagine that the material types are going to be more enduring, and so the cost would have to be considered on what they could rent them out for. So they have to be cognizant of what their market is. So, that's the next study is what the market will bear as far as in costs. So to answer your question, we're not looking at any subsidized housing, if that's your question.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone signed up to testify in favor of or in opposition to this project. And so at this time, I guess I would ask if there are any further questions for either the applicant or staff before we close public hearing. Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved, Mayor.
Darrell, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, council discussion and or motion.
Mayor, I would make a motion to accept the zoning map amendment from RS6 RMH at 916 East Colorado Avenue and 915 East Bird Avenue and 908 and 912 South Elder for the applicant Randy Haverfield for Ron Kennedy with condition to approval.
And with the addition of the residential character addition to the development agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Bruner,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. And Randy, I have to say, it's wonderful to have a nice project going in there. That's the kind of development that we need, and it's great.
Yes, I'm excited about it as well, and I'm excited to be able to let them know that you've got this powerful vote of support in them moving forward.
Great. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to go back to item 1.9. This is our final public hearing for the evening. And I'd like to confirm with staff Doug Critchfield to ensure that the applicant is available.
Mayor, yes, the applicant, while the presentation was going on, the applicant is online now. His name is Danny Shervack. And so, Rodney, you see Danny on there?
Yes, we do see him.
Okay, great. Okay.
How's everybody doing?
Good. So this is item 1.9 on the agenda. This is annexation and zoning to limited multifamily residential at 1165 South Powerline Road. This is a 2.02 acre portion of the Kurtz addition, and this is for multifamily residential 0 lot line buildings and multifamily residential 4-plex buildings for Zenith Home. And our applicant is Danny Shervack, I believe. So Danny, go ahead and state your name again and your address.
My name is Danny Shervack, and the address is 1165 South Powerline.
Thank you for being here and joining us. And so you're ready to go. Feel free to tell us about your project.
So we were planning on putting about 25 units in there. We've got, I didn't attend the first public hearing meeting for this property. But what we were planning on doing is having a 2-story with an attached garage townhouses. So we're going to run them as a townhouse instead of a 4-plex.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we move to staff?
No.
Nope. Okay. We'll come back to you with further questions in just a minute. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay, Doug.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, Doug Critchfield. So the requested action item, as stated, was for limited multifamily residential at 1165 South Powerline Road. These would be 0 lot line buildings and multifamily residential 4-plex buildings. And the stated purpose is just as what was just mentioned there about the building configuration. General information, the 2.02 acre site. It's a medium density residential in the comprehensive plan. The adjacent zoning is RML, and the comprehensive plan allows for what's called stretch zoning from high density or stretch zoning from any adjacent zone across the top of a current land use setting. And so there are various land use settings in the area. There's residential, there's what's that called? A subdivision, what's that called? I'm sorry. It's getting late in the day. The RA zoning to the north. That is a much less denser zone. To the south is a single family residential, RS6. And then there's rural R1 county to the east. And then Timber Creek Apartments is a limited multifamily residential to the west. Again, the comprehensive plan allows for a stretch zoning across adjacent parcels. In this case, they would be stretch zoning the RML from to the properties to the west, east, over across this parcel. As was mentioned, this is a current zoning map. So there are utilities to the site. There's sewer. There's a 21-inch sewer trunk with an 8-inch stub near the southwest corner of the property. There's water, pressure irrigation, which is located 120 feet north of the property. Access is from South Powerline Road. This is an aerial view of the property. It's largely unoccupied. And this is a bird's eye view looking to the west of the property. Here's a street view from South Powerline Road into the property. So again, as was mentioned, the stretching that's allowed in this instance, the high density future land use setting, can be stretched over the property. The RML zoning exists immediately adjacent to the west of this parcel. So that does create some level of consistency and compatibility. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the project to the City Council with the following findings. So the annexation parcel is enclaved, and it adjoins city limits on its north, south, east, and west property lines. The area can be assumed to be available for orderly development. The RML zoning conforms with the city's comprehensive future land use map. The maximum allowable residential net density for this subject property is 29.8 dwelling for under staff findings and discussions. Originally, we had sent notice to the applicant on March 12th from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, an action letter stating that the maximum density was 12.45 dwelling units per acre. That's actually incorrect. With the RML zoning, the density is 29.8 net units per acre. So I just wanted to point that out, that was a change from what was sent out from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The property owner requested the annexation and zoning as was stated earlier. The conditions of approval, they are stated in your staff report. There are several issues having to do with South Powerline Road and the right-of-way, and they'll be working with the engineering division on that. And the other items are listed in your staff report. There was also mentioned, as has been said previously in earlier staff reports, that solid waste and weed accumulation need to be removed from the property. It's recommended that that occur prior to annexation. So the recommended action, annexation and zoning to RML, limited multi-use family residential. And with that, we'll take any questions from staff or from the council, excuse me.
Council, do you have any questions for staff?
Mayor Kling, I do. Doug, seems to me like 10 years ago, this area used to have a trailer court on it. Is this the same area?
Oh, to be honest with you, Mayor and Councilmember Rodriguez, I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, 'cause I think I remember there was one. Randy, do you remember that?
I don't recall that. Sorry.
Okay, I was just talking about land use, and that was part of my question. So disregard. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing and there isn't anyone that signed up to testify in favor of or in opposition to this project. So this would be an opportunity for Mr. Shervick or to have any closing comments, and then council, if you have any questions for the applicant or staff again before we close public hearing.
I've got no comments.
Okay. Staff, do you have any questions? Excuse me, Cal, I did the same thing, Doug. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant or staff?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
I would just ask if the violations that were noted in Sylvia's letter to this file, as far as if they've been satisfied yet at this point, I didn't hear that. Was that addressed?
Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, can you state specifically what it is that you're?
Well, it states that there were violations, annexation not recommended until these issues are remedied, that solid waste accumulation, tree stumps, plastic piping, concrete debris from a demolished building and trash, to include the right-of-way, weeds to be destroyed, weeds throughout the property. There were those two items that I guess code enforcement had placed upon as violations.
Yes, Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, that is one of the conditions, and that is condition number 9. Number 9.
So they have not been taken care of yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We will have that scheduled as soon as possible.
Well, again, my point is the recommendation was not to grant the annexation until that took place. So I just want to get clarity on that.
Yeah, so we've been working on the solid waste and all of the weeds being cut down. As of right now, it's not fully complete, but it is in the process of it.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, my understanding, and Rodney, you can chime in on this. My understanding is that we would not bring the ordinance forward until that was completed. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be completed until that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything that we authorize is contingent on this taking place first.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Are there any other questions from council for the applicant or staff?
Oh, ma'am.
Okay, hearing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Council discussion? Or motion?
Don't jump right on top of that. I'll make the motion then to allow the annexation and zoning to RML as proposed with the recommended conditions of approval as stated.
Is that pending? If they get this all cleaned up first, Randy?
Right, and that's a part of the recommended conditions of approval.
Okay, sorry. I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Sherrick, for joining us this evening. I think yours is done. And that concludes our meeting. We made it through 10 public hearings this evening, which was very fast. And actually, and I'll make a comment after we conclude, but I would stand for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I think Gene owes me a chocolate because I would have picked before 8.
But you didn't choose